On my birthday, my daughter-in-law gave me pills to help me sleep. I saved them. 3 days later, she found me wide awake with my lawyer. They say the most dangerous predators are those who smile while they poison you. I never thought my son's wife would try to erase me from existence, one pill at a time. But on my 75th birthday, as she handed me those innocent-looking capsules to help me sleep, something in her eyes told me to be careful. 3 days later, when she walked into the living room and found me wide awake with my lawyer, the mask finally fell. This is my story of betrayal, survival, and justice. If you're watching this, subscribe to the channel and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I stared at the small white pill in my palm, feeling Nora's eyes on me. My daughter-in-law's smile never reached her eyes as she hovered beside my armchair, waiting. "It's just to help you sleep, Eleanor. You've been so restless lately," she said, her voice sweet as antifreeze. "Thank you, dear." I lifted the glass of water to my lips, discreetly tucking the pill between my gum and cheek. I pretended to swallow, then set the glass down on the side table next to my pathetic birthday celebration. A store-bought cake with a single candle and a hastily wrapped scarf I'd seen in Nora's closet last week. The phone rang, and Nora's head snapped toward the sound. "I should get that. You rest now." The moment she left, I removed the pill from my mouth and slipped it into the pocket of my cardigan. Something wasn't right. These sleep aids had started after my son Thomas died 6 months ago. A heart attack, they said. So sudden for a healthy 50-year-old man. I glanced around what used to be my living room. Thomas and I had built this house together after my husband died. Now I barely recognized it. My photographs had vanished, replaced by Nora's modern art pieces. My books had been packed away, cluttering the shelves, she'd said. Even my bedroom had been relocated downstairs, for my safety. Through the doorway, I could hear Nora's hushed voice. "Yes, everything's on schedule. No, she doesn't suspect anything. The lawyers handled the paperwork. Just a few more weeks." My fingers trembled as I pulled out the small notebook I kept hidden in my sleeve. I'd been documenting everything since the day after Thomas's funeral, when Nora had first suggested I might be safer living with her instead of alone. The day she'd first mentioned how confused I sometimes seemed. I added today's date and a description of the pill. It wasn't the first time she'd tried to medicate me, but it was the first time she'd made such a show of it. Something had changed. She was getting impatient. As I wrote, I caught my reflection in the window, a thin, white-haired woman who looked far older than her 75 years. That wasn't who I used to be. Before Thomas died, I'd been the English professor who still hiked 3 miles every morning, who lectured at the community college twice a week, whose mind remained sharp as a tack. Now I was just a problem to be solved. The sound of Nora's footsteps sent my notebook back into hiding. She entered with that same practiced smile. Phone call concluded. "I think I'll go to bed now," I said, making my voice quiver slightly. "I'm feeling a bit disoriented." Her smile widened. "Of course, the medication should be helping with that." As she helped me to my downstairs bedroom, my prison, I felt her hand on my elbow, steering me like a child. I kept my eyes downcast, my shoulders slumped. But inside, something was hardening. The last living photo of Thomas sat on my nightstand, the one possession Nora hadn't dared remove. In it, my son smiled at me, his eyes bright and trusting. "I won't let her get away with this," I whispered to his image once Nora had closed my door. "Whatever she did to you, whatever she's doing to me, I'll find out, and I'll make her pay." The next morning, I shuffled into the kitchen deliberately slow, my hand trembling as I reached for the coffee pot. Nora quickly intercepted. "Let me help you with that, Eleanor. We don't want any accidents." I mumbled a thank you, noticing how she'd already set out my morning pills beside a glass of orange juice. Same routine, different day. I performed my sleight of hand trick, hiding the medication while appearing to take it. "Howard is coming for dinner tonight," she announced, referring to our family lawyer. "Just to go over some routine paperwork." I nodded absently, but my mind sharpened. Howard had been Thomas's friend before becoming our attorney. If anyone might help me, it could be him. That evening, I dressed carefully in my most presentable outfit, even applying a touch of lipstick. Nora frowned when she saw me. "You've overdone it," she said, adjusting my collar like I was a child. "Remember what happened last time we had company? You got so overwhelmed." The last time she referred to was when my friend Margaret had visited. I'd gotten confused and agitated after Nora had insisted I take an extra pill for my anxiety. Howard arrived at 7, his gray suit impeccable as always, though his eyes seemed tired. When he saw me, genuine warmth flickered across his face. "Ellie, you're looking well." "She has good days and bad days," Nora cut in before I could respond. "Today's been challenging." Throughout dinner, I tried repeatedly to engage Howard directly. "I've been thinking about Thomas's estate," I began. "Eleanor gets so confused about financial matters," Nora interrupted, placing her hand over mine. "We don't need to trouble Howard with questions you've already asked 3 times this week." I hadn't asked anything about finances in months. Howard looked uncomfortable. "Actually, there is that insurance matter we need to discuss. We can handle that after dinner," Nora said firmly. "Eleanor, why don't you tell Howard about the birds you saw in the garden?" I felt like screaming. Instead, I deliberately knocked over my water glass. "Oh, I'm so sorry," I exclaimed, watching the liquid spread across the tablecloth. Nora jumped up. "This is what I was telling you about, Howard. These episodes are happening more frequently." While she fetched towels, Howard leaned toward me. "Are you okay, Ellie?" Before I could answer, Nora returned. The moment had passed. Later, as they moved to the study to discuss paperwork, I watched through the window as Howard stopped Nora in the garden. Their conversation appeared tense, with Howard shaking his head repeatedly. When Nora disappeared upstairs for her evening shower, precisely 8 minutes, never varying, I seized my chance. Her tablet sat charging on the kitchen counter. I knew her password would be something she thought I'd forgotten. Thomas's birthday, 05/17/1974. The screen unlocked, revealing her email. I quickly searched for recent messages, finding one from Northlake Development with the subject line, "Property Valuation, Expedited Timeline." The message confirmed my worst fears. "Once guardianship is established, we can proceed with the sale immediately. Buyers are prepared to move quickly. My home, my life, my memories, all being erased while I still breathed." I heard the shower turn off upstairs and quickly locked the tablet, returning it to its exact position. By the time Nora came downstairs, I was sitting in my armchair, appearing to doze. But sleep was the furthest thing from my mind. I needed help, and I needed it soon. The question was, who would believe a supposedly senile old woman over her concerned, devoted daughter-in-law? The fluorescent lights of the medical clinic made everyone look ill. I sat in the examination room, watching the second hand tick around the clock while Nora completed my insurance forms at the reception desk. "Mrs. Mitchell?" I turned to see a nurse in purple scrubs entering with a clipboard. Something about her seemed familiar, the way she tilted her head, her observant eyes. "I'm Patricia Davis," she said, checking my blood pressure. "I'll be assisting Dr. Sinclair today." The name clicked. Patricia Davis. "Weren't you in my Victorian literature seminar about 15 years ago?" Her face brightened. "Professor Mitchell, I can't believe you remember me. Your class on Jane Eyre changed my entire perspective on literature." Before I could respond, Nora returned, hovering at the doorway. "Is everything all right?" "Just getting her vitals," Patricia replied professionally. But I noticed how her eyes darted between us, assessing. "Eleanor gets confused sometimes," Nora explained. "She thinks she knows people from her teaching days." "I'm not confused," I said firmly. "Patricia wrote her thesis on female autonomy in Gothic literature." Patricia smiled. "That's exactly right." Nora's expression tightened. "Well, isn't that a nice coincidence?" Dr. Sinclair's examination was brief and routine. Throughout, Nora answered questions for me, describing symptoms I'd never mentioned: confusion, night terrors, occasional hallucinations. "She needs closer monitoring," Nora concluded. "I'm concerned about her cognitive decline." As they discussed my condition, Patricia caught my eye, her expression thoughtful. When Nora stepped out to take a call, Patricia moved quickly. "Professor, is there something wrong?" she whispered. "You seem different from how I remember you." My heart raced. This was my chance. "She's medicating me against my will," I whispered back. "Pills that make me disoriented. I've been saving them instead of taking them." Patricia's eyes widened, but her professional composure held. "Do you have any of these pills?" I nodded slightly. "I need to check your blood pressure again before you leave," she said in a normal tone as Nora re-entered. Hospital protocol. When we were alone again briefly, Patricia pressed a folded blood pressure information pamphlet into my hand. My personal number is written inside. Call me if you can. I quickly tucked it into my shoe as Nora returned. That night, I extracted the pamphlet from my hiding place, memorizing the number written in tiny script inside. 203-555-7842. For the first time in months, I felt something beyond fear and confusion. Hope. The next morning, Nora brought me my usual pills and juice. "These will help with your anxiety," she said, watching intently as I raised them to my lips. I performed my well-practiced sleight of hand, then smiled vacantly. "Thank you for taking such good care of me." Her answering smile didn't reach her eyes. "That's what family is for, Eleanor. That's what family is for." The following Tuesday, Nora left for her investment group meeting, leaving me with Denise, my part-time caregiver. Denise was more interested in her reality TV shows than in monitoring my every move. "I think I'll take a nap," I announced after lunch. "Good idea, Mrs. M," Denise replied, already scrolling through her phone. "I'll be right here if you need anything." Instead of heading to my bedroom, I quietly slipped into Thomas's study, the one room Nora kept relatively untouched, claiming it was too painful to go through his things. I suspected she simply hadn't had time to thoroughly search it yet. The room smelled faintly of Thomas's aftershave. Books lined the walls, along with photographs of fishing trips with his father, graduation with me proudly at his side, and his wedding to Nora, both of them beaming. Had that happiness been real? Or had Nora always been playing a role? I moved purposefully to the filing cabinet, pulling out a folder labeled Taxes 2010, old enough to be uninteresting to Nora. Inside, hidden among mundane paperwork, I found an envelope with my name written in Thomas's handwriting, marked, "Mom, open only if something happens to me." My hands trembled as I carefully unsealed it, extracting a single sheet of paper. "Mom, if you're reading this, something has happened to me. I pray I'm being paranoid, but I can't ignore what I've discovered. Nora has been having an affair with Victor Rollins, a financial advisor from her investment group. I confronted her last month, and she denied everything. But I found hotel receipts and text messages. More concerning, I've been experiencing strange symptoms after meals she prepares. Dizziness, confusion, heart palpitations. It may be coincidence, but I've started eating out more often, and the symptoms have lessened. I've spoken confidentially with a divorce attorney in Hartford and am changing my will next week. I wanted you protected, whatever happens. If anything happens to me before I can fix this, go to Lawrence Kim at 782 Maple Street in Hartford. He has copies of everything. I love you, Mom. Stay safe. Thomas. I pressed my hand against my mouth to stifle a sob. My son had suspected. He had known something was wrong, just as I did now. Footsteps in the hallway jolted me back to the present. I quickly photographed the letter using the old digital camera I kept in my purse, my bird-watching hobby that Nora found harmless, and returned everything to its place. I was sitting at Thomas's desk, looking at a family photo album, when Denise poked her head in. "There you are, just checking on you. Finding some good memories?" I nodded, playing the role of the sentimental old woman, just remembering better days. That night, I lay awake planning my next move. Going directly to the police seemed risky. Nora would simply paint me as confused and bitter. I needed irrefutable evidence, starting with those pills. The next morning, I noticed a sleek black car parked in our driveway. Through the kitchen window, I watched as a tall man with silver hair embraced Nora before following her inside. "Eleanor," Nora called brightly, "I'd like you to meet Victor Rollins, my financial advisor. He's helping us organize Thomas's estate." Victor extended his hand, his smile as practiced as Nora's. "Pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Mitchell. I've heard so much about you." I clasped his hand weakly, noting the expensive watch, the manicured nails. "Have you? How nice." "Victor will be visiting regularly to help with some investment decisions," Nora explained. "Isn't that thoughtful of him?" I nodded, playing my part perfectly. But inside, puzzle pieces were falling into place, forming a picture more terrible than I had imagined. The shower ran upstairs, water drumming against tile. 8 minutes. That's how long Nora's showers lasted. Never more, never less. I moved swiftly to the landline in the kitchen, punching in the number I'd memorized. My heart pounded with each ring. "Hello?" Patricia's voice answered. "It's Eleanor Mitchell," I whispered, eyes fixed on the ceiling. "I don't have much time." "Professor, I've been worried. Are you okay?" "No." I quickly described the pills I'd been collecting, Thomas's letter, and Nora's plans with Victor. I need to get these pills analyzed. I can help, Patricia said firmly. Your next appointment is in 2 weeks. Bring 1 pill. I'll create a legitimate reason to test it. And if they're what I suspect, then we'll have official medical documentation of potential elder abuse. Her voice hardened. That triggers mandatory reporting protocols. The shower shut off. I have to go, I whispered. Stay safe, Professor. Document everything. I hung up just as Nora's footsteps crossed the ceiling above. When she entered the kitchen, I was innocently arranging flowers, a hobby she still permitted. Talking to yourself again, Eleanor? She asked, towel drying her hair. I gave her a vacant smile. Just remembering my garden club friends. You should rest before lunch. Victor's coming back to continue our discussion. And so he did, arriving with documents in expensive leather portfolios. They secluded themselves in the dining room, voices low but animated. I shuffled past deliberately, tray of tea in hand. Should be finalized within 6 weeks, Victor was saying. Northlake is pushing for a quick close. The paperwork is the holdup, Nora replied. Howard is dragging his feet about the competency evaluation. They fell silent as I entered. I kept my expression blank, hands trembling appropriately as I set down the tray. Thank you, Eleanor, Nora said loudly, as if addressing a child. Would you like to join us? Oh, I wouldn't understand all these complicated matters, I responded, reinforcing their perception. Victor smiled condescendingly. It's just boring paperwork, Mrs. Mitchell. Nothing for you to worry about. 2 weeks crawled by. I continued collecting pills, storing them in an empty vitamin bottle hidden inside a package of feminine products in my bathroom, somewhere Nora would never look. On the day of my medical appointment, I slipped 1 pill into a tissue in my pocket. Patricia was waiting, her smile professional, but her eyes conveying understanding. While Nora completed forms at reception, Patricia checked my vitals, skillfully passing me a small evidence envelope. I transferred the pill when Nora glanced away. I'll rush this through the hospital lab, Patricia murmured. Standard protocol for medication identification. That afternoon, returning earlier than expected from a dermatologist appointment, I entered through the side door. Voices from the kitchen froze me in place. When will it be done? Victor's voice irritated. Soon, Nora answered. The medical evaluation is scheduled for right after her birthday. 2 more weeks. Northlake won't wait forever. Other properties are available. This one is prime real estate, with lake access, worth $20 million minimum. I stepped back, a floorboard creaking beneath me. Silence fell in the kitchen. Eleanor? Nora called. Is that you? I shuffled forward, feigning confusion. The doctor finished early. They sprang apart, though not before I glimpsed Victor's hand on Nora's waist. Their matching guilty expressions told me everything Thomas's letter had suggested. That night, Nora brought me tea before bed, something she rarely did. Drink it all, she insisted, watching until I emptied the cup. It will help you sleep. The bitter aftertaste lingered as she closed my bedroom door. Whatever game she was playing had entered a new, more dangerous phase, and my time was running out. The supermarket's fluorescent lights cast everyone in an unflattering glow. I pushed the cart slowly behind Nora, who was comparing pasta brands with exaggerated concentration. Eleanor? I turned to see Patricia approaching in civilian clothes, her surprise at our coincidental meeting, perfectly feigned. From Dr. Sinclair's office, remember? She prompted when I deliberately hesitated. Oh yes, I said, maintaining my fragile persona. The nice nurse. Patricia chatted pleasantly with Nora about the weather while helping me select oranges. When Nora stepped away to grab something from another aisle, Patricia whispered quickly. The lab results came back. The pills contain a sedative mixed with low-dose atenolol, a heart medication. For someone without heart issues, it would cause cognitive symptoms and eventually cardiac irregularities. My blood ran cold. Like my son experienced before his heart attack? Patricia's expression confirmed my worst fears. The hospital has officially documented this as an unidentified medication brought in by a concerned patient. Everything's legitimate. My phone rang, a rare occurrence since Nora controlled my contacts. To my surprise, it was Howard. Eleanor, I need to speak with you urgently about your estate management. Nora was still out of earshot. I found Thomas's letter about the divorce plans, I said quietly, a sharp intake of breath. I can't talk now. This is worse than you know. The line went dead as Nora returned with pasta sauce. That evening, I pretended to nap in the sunroom while Nora and Howard had what they thought was a private conversation in the study. Their voices carried through the heating vent. "The guardianship paperwork needs her signature," Howard was saying, his tone strained. "We've discussed this," Nora snapped. "The medical evaluation will show she's incompetent. We'll get court approval. There are ethical considerations. Your gambling debts don't leave you in a position to lecture me about ethics, Howard. Your bookie was quite informative." Silence followed, then Howard's defeated voice. "The evaluation is scheduled for 3 days after her birthday. If the doctors sign off, they will. Victor has it arranged." I closed my eyes, processing this bombshell. Howard wasn't a willing accomplice. He was being blackmailed. And the birthday Nora kept mentioning was my 76th, just 2 weeks away. Back in my room, I examined the new pill Nora had given me that morning, larger than the previous ones, with a faint blue tint. The dosage was increasing. That night, I carefully documented everything in my secret diary, hidden inside an old photo album cover. The pieces were coming together. Nora and Victor planned to have me declared incompetent, sell my property to Northlake Development, and likely institutionalize me afterward. My son had suspected Nora was poisoning him and had planned to divorce her. Now she was using the same playbook on me. The next morning, Victor arrived early. Through my barely open door, I watched Nora greet him with a kiss far too intimate for a professional relationship. "The property assessor's report came back," he said, waving papers. 22 million, as I predicted. "And Eleanor? The doctors are prepared to testify about her condition. Once declared incompetent, the trust provisions activate, giving you control. And then we're free." Their embrace confirmed everything. This wasn't just about money. It was about erasing the last obstacle to their relationship. First Thomas, now me. As they moved to the study, I retreated to my room, heart pounding. My birthday was 13 days away. The medical evaluation, 16. The clock was ticking. That afternoon, during another medical appointment, Patricia passed me a basic prepaid phone, already programmed with the number for Alex Bennett, an elder abuse attorney. My new lifeline, easily hidden in the same secret compartment of my shoe. Now I had communication, evidence, and allies. It was time to set my own trap. In the dark hours before dawn, I sat cross-legged on my bathroom floor, illuminated only by the dim glow of the prepaid phone. At 3:17 a.m., I knew Nora would be deeply asleep. Her prescription sleeping pills knocked her out for precisely 7 hours every night. "Alex Bennett," answered a voice, alert despite the hour. "It's Eleanor Mitchell," I whispered. "Patricia Davis referred me." "Mrs. Mitchell, yes. I've been expecting your call." Over the next 20 minutes, I detailed everything: the pills, Thomas's letter, the conversations I'd overheard, and Nora's plans for the upcoming medical evaluation. "This is deeply concerning," Alex said. "We need to move carefully but quickly. Patricia has already forwarded the lab results, which give us solid ground for an emergency protective order. They're planning to have me declared incompetent 3 days after my birthday. That's 16 days from now. We'll be ready before then," Alex assured me. "But we need more evidence. Can you safely continue documenting?" "I've been playing the role of confused old woman for months," I said with grim satisfaction. "I can manage 2 more weeks." We established a communication protocol. I would text updates during Nora's predictable absences, and we would speak by phone only in emergencies. The next day, I intensified my performance, occasionally misplacing items or appearing momentarily disoriented. Nora's satisfaction was barely concealed. "The new medication seems to be affecting you more strongly," she observed during breakfast, watching me struggle with my spoon. A deliberate performance on my part. "Is it?" I murmured vaguely. "I feel foggy." Her smile was triumphant. "That's normal, Eleanor. Just your condition progressing." When Victor visited that afternoon, I shuffled into the living room in my bathrobe, though it was mid-afternoon. "Oh, I didn't realize we had company," I exclaimed, feigning embarrassment. Victor and Nora exchanged meaningful glances. "It's fine, Eleanor," Nora said loudly. "Why don't you sit with us? We're just discussing some paperwork." I positioned myself in an armchair, appearing to doze while they continued their conversation, now speaking freely in front of me. "The Northlake deal is solid," Victor was saying. 22 million, all cash. 10 for the property, 12 for the development rights. "And the medical evaluation? Dr. Mercer and Dr. Patel are on board. Their testimony about her mental state will be definitive. I fought to keep my expression neutral, my breathing steady. These were the doctors Nora had bought. Later that night, I used the bathroom trip Nora always permitted before bed to send a text to Alex. Need background checks on Dr. Mercer and Dr. Patel, connected to Victor Rollins. The next morning, Howard arrived unexpectedly while Nora was at her investment meeting. His face was drawn, eyes haunted. "Eleanor," he said quietly once we were alone. "I didn't know about Thomas, I swear it, but Nora has evidence of my gambling debts, enough to disbar me. She's blackmailing you to prepare guardianship documents," I stated flatly. He nodded miserably. "She's forcing me to falsify competency evaluations. I know 2 doctors are being paid to declare you incapable of managing your affairs." "When?" "The evaluation is scheduled for July 13th, 3 days after your birthday. Once you're declared incompetent, Nora becomes your guardian and can sell the property. The buyers are waiting." I reached for his hand. "Howard, help me stop this." His eyes met mine, something like courage kindling. "Tell me what you need. Information, dates, documentation, and when the time comes, your testimony." For the first time in months, I allowed my true self to emerge, not the fragile, confused woman Nora thought she was controlling, but Dr. Eleanor Mitchell, the strategic literature professor who had spent decades analyzing human motivation and narrative structures. "I have a plan," I told Howard, "but we'll need to be very careful." As Howard left, promising to return with copies of the guardianship paperwork, I felt a strange calm settle over me. The game had shifted. Nora thought I was her pawn, but she didn't realize I'd been playing my own game all along. Nora's tablet chimed with a new email notification. From my position on the sunroom couch, I watched her scan the message, a satisfied smile spreading across her face. "Good news?" I asked, my voice deliberately frail. She startled slightly, having thought I was napping. "Just work things, Eleanor. Nothing important," but her heightened energy told me otherwise. After she left to make a phone call, I shuffled to the kitchen counter where she'd left the tablet unlocked, a carelessness born of growing confidence. The email was from Northlake Development. Final contract ready for signature pending guardianship confirmation. Closing scheduled for July 20th, just 1 week after my scheduled medical evaluation. I quickly photographed the screen with my hidden camera, then returned to my position on the couch before Nora returned. That afternoon, during Nora's investment meeting, I used the prepaid phone to update Alex. "They're moving fast," he confirmed. "But so are we. Dr. Sinclair has officially reported his concerns about your medication to Elder Protective Services. It's now a matter of public record." "What about the doctors Nora's paying?" "We found connections. Dr. Mercer has previous ethics violations for false testimony in competency hearings. Dr. Patel shares financial interest with Victor in 3 different property developments. And the evaluation? We're requesting an emergency protective hearing 2 days before your scheduled evaluation. Judge Calloway is known for taking elder abuse seriously." I exhaled slowly. "What do you need from me until then?" "Continue collecting evidence, but be careful. We're close to the end game. This is when Nora might become more dangerous." His words proved prophetic. That evening, Victor arrived for dinner, bringing with him expensive wine and the casual arrogance of a man who believed victory was assured. "A toast," he announced, raising his glass, "to new beginnings." Nora clinked her glass against his, eyes shining. "And profitable partnerships." I sipped my water, playing my role perfectly. Throughout dinner, they discussed renovations to a penthouse in Boston, clearly their planned post-sale residence, while occasionally directing simplified conversation toward me. "You'll love the care facility we've selected, Eleanor," Nora said, her voice dripping with false concern. "Beautiful gardens and round-the-clock supervision." "That sounds nice," I murmured, noting how they'd already selected my institutional prison. After dinner, while they shared brandy in the study, I overheard Victor's lowered voice through the heating vent. "The medical evaluation is crucial. If anything goes wrong—" "It won't," Nora interrupted. "The new medication is much stronger. By her birthday, she'll barely know her own name." I retreated silently to my room, my mind racing. The new medication explained the larger, blue-tinted pills Nora had started giving me 3 days ago. Pills I continued to hide rather than swallow. The next morning, Dr. Sinclair's office called to confirm my special evaluation appointment. Nora took the call, agreeing readily to the date and time, July 13th, 10:30 a.m. What she didn't know was that Alex had arranged for a court-appointed medical evaluator to attend as well, part of our emergency protective strategy. That evening, Howard visited again, ostensibly to have Nora sign insurance paperwork. While she searched for her reading glasses, he slipped me a folded document, a copy of the fraudulent guardianship petition they planned to file. "The hearing is set for July 15th, he whispered. "They expect to have the medical declarations by then." I nodded almost imperceptibly, tucking the document into my sleeve. "Thank you." As my birthday approached, Nora became increasingly attentive, checking my medications personally and watching me swallow each pill. I perfected my technique of hiding them in my cheek, later transferring them to my growing collection of evidence. 7 days before my birthday, Victor arrived with 2 men in business suits, representatives from Northlake Development. "Just a property inspection," Nora explained breezily. "Nothing for you to worry about." I watched from my window as they measured the grounds, pointing toward the lake and gesturing expansively. My home of 40 years, the place where I'd raised my son, was being divided up before I was even gone. That night, I sent a final update to Alex. "Property buyers conducted inspection today. All parties expect to close deal by July 20th. His response was immediate. "Court date confirmed, July 11th, day after your birthday. Be ready." "Happy birthday, Eleanor," Nora announced, entering my room with a breakfast tray. On it sat a small cupcake with a single candle, a cup of tea, and a new pill bottle. "Your special supplements. Take 2 this morning. A birthday boost." I examined the pills, noticeably larger than before, with a distinctive blue coating. "These look different," I remarked. "New formula," she replied smoothly. "Much more effective. Doctor's orders." I performed my well-practiced routine, appearing to swallow while secretly storing them in my cheek. Later, I added them to my evidence collection, now containing 27 pills of varying sizes and colors. Nora had planned a small celebration for that afternoon, clearly strategic, with Howard and 2 neighbors invited as witnesses to my deteriorated mental state. What she didn't know was that Howard was now working with us, documenting every conversation and collecting evidence of her coercion. The small decorative brooch he'd given me last week, supposedly a memento from Thomas's collection, contained a tiny camera that had been recording Nora's unguarded moments. Mid-morning, while Nora was occupied with party preparations, I overheard her phone conversation with Victor. "Everything's set for tomorrow," she said, voice low but excited. "The judge will get the competency petition first thing Monday morning, and by Wednesday, it's done. And our friends at Northlake? Ready with contracts. We'll close before August." I retreated silently, updating Alex with a quick text. "Confirmed. Court petition Monday a.m. N expects approval Wednesday." His response was immediate. "Judge Calloway is ready. Operation proceeds as planned tomorrow, 3 p.m. The birthday party was a masterclass in gaslighting. Nora had selected neighbors who rarely saw me, making my confusion seem shocking rather than suspect. "Eleanor used to be so sharp," Mrs. Winters commented to Nora, not realizing I could hear perfectly. "The decline is heartbreaking. It came on suddenly after Thomas died," Nora replied, her voice carefully modulated for sympathy. "The doctors say grief can trigger rapid cognitive deterioration in the elderly." I played my role flawlessly, occasionally mixing up names, fumbling with the cake fork, asking repetitive questions. Howard watched with understanding eyes, occasionally catching my gaze with subtle encouragement. "We should discuss those insurance documents before your appointment tomorrow," he suggested as the party wound down. Nora nodded, pleased that everything was proceeding according to plan. "Eleanor, why don't you rest while Howard and I handle the paperwork?" In the study, doors closed, but voices carrying through the heating vent, Howard masterfully extracted final confirmations. "So, after tomorrow's medical evaluation, we file the petition Monday morning?" "Yes," Nora confirmed. "Dr. Mercer and Dr. Patel will provide declarations of incompetence. Judge Forsyth usually approves these quickly." "And the Northlake contract?" "Ready for signature once guardianship is established. 22 million, Howard. I'll make sure you're well compensated for your discretion." That night, Nora brought me special birthday tea, watching intently as I drank it. The bitter aftertaste told me it contained crushed medication, a final insurance policy for tomorrow's evaluation. I waited until she left, then quietly emptied most of it into the potted plant beside my bed. Soon after, I pretended to be deeply asleep when she checked on me. Once alone, I retrieved the prepaid phone. "Everything confirmed for tomorrow," I texted Alex. "She's drugging my tea tonight to ensure I'm disoriented for evaluation." "We're ready," came the reply. "Court officer will accompany Dr. Sinclair. Dr. Malcolm from Elder Services will conduct independent assessment. Police detective will be present with warrant based on medication evidence." I placed the phone back in its hiding place, a strange calm settling over me. Tomorrow, the performance of my life would reach its final act. As I drifted toward sleep, Thomas's face appeared in my mind, not as he looked in his final months, but vibrant and smiling from years before. "I'm setting things right, son," I whispered into the darkness, "for both of us." The day after my birthday dawned bright and clear. Nora entered my room with another dose of special supplements and a cheerful reminder about my important doctor's appointment tomorrow. "These will help keep you calm," she said, watching me swallow the blue pills that I expertly tucked into my cheek. "Dr. Mercer is very nice. You'll like him." I nodded docilely. "Whatever you think is best, dear." Her smile widened, the predator certain of her prey. "I have a meeting with the Northlake executives this morning," she announced. "Victor will pick me up in 20 minutes. Denise will stay with you until I return." Perfect. Exactly as we'd anticipated. Once Nora left with Victor, Denise settled in the living room with her reality shows. I sent a quick text to Alex. "They've left. Denise is here but distracted." "Team arriving in 45 minutes, came his reply. "Keep Denise occupied." I shuffled into the living room, blanket wrapped around my shoulders despite the summer heat. "Denise, would you mind making me some tea? I'm feeling a bit chilled." "Sure thing, Mrs. M." She headed to the kitchen, where the tea supplies were deliberately placed on the highest shelf, requiring time and attention to reach. While she was occupied, I unlocked the front door and retreated to my armchair, arranging myself to appear frail but composed. 40 minutes later, a subtle knock at the door announced their arrival. Denise, returning with my tea, frowned. "Were we expecting someone?" "I don't think so," I murmured, feigning confusion. She set down the tea and went to answer. I heard her surprised exclamation, followed by the authoritative voice of Alex Bennett introducing himself and his companions. "We're here to see Mrs. Eleanor Mitchell on an urgent legal matter." Denise's protest died when Dr. Sinclair stepped forward, explaining he was my physician conducting a welfare check. She retreated to call Nora while they entered the living room. Alex Bennett was younger than I'd expected, early 40s, with keen eyes and a reassuring presence. Dr. Sinclair nodded respectfully to me, while a woman in a tailored suit introduced herself as Detective Sarah Morales. "Mrs. Mitchell," Alex said formally, "I'm here as your legal representative. Are you comfortable proceeding?" I straightened in my chair, shedding the hunched posture and vacant expression I'd maintained for months. "Absolutely, Mr. Bennett." Detective Morales set a recording device on the coffee table. "Mrs. Mitchell, I'd like to take your statement regarding the medication you've been given without your knowledge or consent. For the next 20 minutes, I provided a clear, detailed account of everything. The pills, Thomas's letter, the conversations I'd overheard, and the plot to have me declared incompetent. Dr. Sinclair examined the collection of pills I'd saved, confirming they matched the samples previously analyzed. This is consistent with gradual sedation and cardiovascular manipulation, he noted for the record. Denise watched from the doorway, her expression shifting from confusion to horror as the truth unfolded. We were reviewing the documents Howard had provided when the front door burst open. Nora stormed in, Victor close behind her. "What is the meaning of this?" she demanded, eyes wild with fury and fear. "Denise, why did you let these people in?" "Mrs. Mitchell," Detective Morales intervened. "I'm Detective Sarah Morales with the Connecticut State Police. We're conducting an investigation into allegations of elder abuse, medical fraud, and—" She paused significantly. "Possible homicide." The color drained from Nora's face. "Homicide? That's ridiculous. Eleanor is confused. She has dementia." "I have no such thing," I stated clearly, rising to my feet without any sign of weakness. "What I have is evidence that you've been drugging me, just as you drugged my son before his heart attack." Victor stepped forward, his lawyer's instincts kicking in. "This is absurd. Mrs. Mitchell clearly needs medical attention." "She's receiving it," Dr. Sinclair interrupted, displaying his credentials. I've been Mrs. Mitchell's physician for 15 years, and I've documented evidence of unauthorized medication in her system, the same compounds found in her son's toxicology report, which I've had re-examined. Nora's composure cracked. You can't prove anything. It's her word against mine, and she's a highly respected former professor with no history of cognitive impairment, Alex finished, who has meticulously documented your attempts to drug her, recorded your conversations about selling her property, and collected sworn statements from multiple witnesses. Howard chose that moment to enter, carrying a thick folder. Including me, he added quietly. I've provided the prosecution with complete documentation of the fraudulent guardianship proceedings. Nora lunged toward me, rage transforming her face. You scheming old... Detective Morales stepped between us, her hand moving to her belt. Mrs. Mitchell, Nora, I'm placing you under arrest for elder abuse, attempted fraud, and conspiracy. We'll also be investigating your involvement in Thomas Mitchell's death. As Morales recited Miranda rights, Victor attempted to edge toward the door, only to find a uniformed officer blocking his path. Victor Rollins, the officer announced, you're also under arrest as a co-conspirator. I watched silently as handcuffs were placed on the woman who had been systematically erasing me from existence. Our eyes met briefly, her shock meeting my clear, unflinching gaze. I may be old, I said quietly, but I am far from helpless. 3 months have passed since the day justice arrived in my living room. I sit at my desk, back in my upstairs study where it belongs, sorting through correspondence for the Thomas Mitchell Foundation for Elder Protection. The house feels like mine again. Photos of Thomas throughout his life line the hallway. My books have returned to the shelves. Friends visit regularly, no longer turned away by Nora's gatekeeping. The legal proceedings continue. Nora and Victor remain in custody, denied bail due to flight risk and the severity of the charges. The forensic re-examination of Thomas's tissue samples revealed significant levels of the same cardiac-affecting compounds found in my supplements. Murder charges were filed last month. Howard received immunity for his testimony. He's rebuilding his life and career, now specializing in elder law with a focus on protecting vulnerable clients from predatory guardianships. Patricia visits weekly, having become both a colleague in the foundation work and a dear friend. Her quick thinking and professional courage saved my life and brought justice for Thomas. Dr. Sinclair's meticulous documentation created an unbreakable chain of evidence, while Alex's legal brilliance ensured that every step we took was properly documented and admissible in court. The doorbell rings. Speaking of Alex, he's right on time for our meeting about the Foundation's newest initiative, training medical professionals to recognize signs of elder medication abuse. Good morning, Dr. Mitchell, he greets me. No longer the formal stranger who entered my house that fateful day, but a trusted ally. Ready for the board meeting? Just finishing up, I reply, organizing my presentation notes. The Foundation has already secured partnerships with 3 medical schools to implement specialized training programs. As we prepare to leave, my phone rings. Howard with news from the prosecutor. They've offered Nora a plea deal, he informs me. Life with possibility of parole after 30 years, if she testifies against Victor regarding Thomas's death. Has she accepted? I ask, my voice steady. Not yet. Her attorney requested a meeting with you first. I consider this. I'll see her. Not for forgiveness, but for closure. The following day, I sit across from Nora in the prison visiting room. She's aged dramatically in 3 months, her designer clothes replaced by a prison jumpsuit, her carefully maintained appearance now stripped of artifice. Eleanor, she begins, her voice hoarse. I want to explain. There's nothing to explain, Nora, I interrupt calmly. You killed my son for his money, then tried to do the same to me. She flinches. It wasn't supposed to happen that way. Thomas was asking questions, threatening to leave. So you poisoned him, gradually, carefully, making it look like heart problems. Victor said it was untraceable, she whispers, as if that somehow absolves her. Nothing is truly untraceable, I reply. Just as your plan to erase me failed. What do you want from me? She asks finally, defeated. The truth, for Thomas. Sign the plea deal. Testify against Victor. Give my son justice. She studies me, perhaps seeing for the first time the steel beneath the appearance of fragility. You were never what you seemed, were you? Neither were you, I counter. The difference is, I was protecting myself. You were destroying lives. As I leave the prison, sunshine bathes my face. I think of Thomas, his kindness, his laughter, the life stolen from him. The foundation bearing his name will protect others from suffering his fate. At 76, I am not the person I was a year ago. Grief has carved new lines in my face, but purpose has straightened my spine. The woman who survived attempts to erase her now helps others find their voices and reclaim their dignity. That evening, Patricia and Dr. Sinclair join me for dinner. We toast Thomas's memory and the Foundation's first successful semester of medical training programs. To justice, Patricia offers, raising her glass. To vigilance, adds Dr. Sinclair. To remembering who we truly are, I conclude, even when others try to make us forget. Later, alone in my study, I open Thomas's letter once more, tracing his handwriting with my fingertip. "We did it, son," I whisper. "We set things right." Outside my window, fireflies dance in the summer darkness, brief, brilliant flashes of light against the encroaching night, like memory, like truth, like the fierce, undimming flame of love that outlasts betrayal. Tomorrow brings a lecture at the police academy about recognizing elder abuse. Next week, testimony at a legislative hearing on guardianship reform. The month after, the Foundation's first national conference. This is not the retirement I imagined, but it is the purpose I've found. From the ashes of betrayal, something meaningful has grown. A legacy not just of survival, but of transformation. Not just for me, but for all those who, like me, refuse to be erased. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and feel free to share your story in the comments. Your voice matters.